You are watching Xirtus.
No, it for some like I don't think like fame is like generally a good thing. Like I think it's it's really good at warping people. Like have you seen BoJack Horseman?
Oh yeah, dude, I
Yeah.
love BoJack. That's my life. I am BoJack. That's what I feel
Yeah.
like.
Like excellent show. And like I always will remember that line. Like it just stuck with me ever since I seen it like the first time. And they're describing celebrity life. And I think it's Diane that's saying it. No, it's not Diane, it's someone else. But basically they're saying, imagine you were 20 years old and then you got rewarded for being exactly who you are for the next 20 years. That's
Don't go
that
changing. Right, yeah. God.
that's how I've come to see it. I don't know any celebrities, but there does seem to be evidence there if you like look closely enough. Like a lot of celebrities have struggles with like having a lot of depth to them because they've never had to have depth because it's always been kind of put before them. And there's exceptions to that, of course, but
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, all the celebrities I've seen, they're upset that they have been famous for speaking other people's words,
yeah.
not their own, right? Not all of them, but the ones who are upset, right? I think there's a lot of celebrities I know who don't uh like to have opinions or have their own words. And they don't, that's why they won't do certain talk shows, not because they they just don't want to talk. They don't have thoughts about things. They'd rather speak at an award show, a script. That's fine. They can do that. It's part of their lifestyle to put energy and emphasis into words and stuff. But to really feel things about things that they'd have to like study, which don't impact them. And so many celebrities really pretend that these things impact them because they want meaning in their life. And then that feels pretty shallow to like legitimately basic but based
Yeah.
people.
I I mean, a lot of people think they would trade their lives immediately for to be a celebrity. And like I think well, my mind's been like warped just by seeing how crazy people go over just like small town bullshit, you know? Like well, when I lived in Illinois, the there was like the local badass musician, you know, where they get like locally famous, but they get locally famous just for like singing cover songs. And but you can see like what it does to their own ego. Like, yeah, I could sing this cover song better than anyone here, you know?
Yeah, it's a weird legitimacy because it's legitimate. I mean, it comes from the ancient. You've got medieval bards and people singing these and playing these lutes and things. And in any country, you still could go to up until very recently, and even into the 90s, bands playing. It seemed reasonable to have bands playing at a high school prom instead of a DJ. But we're pushed away from that. It's like, oh yeah, no, you're not really supposed to do that. I mean, you're not supposed to be good at that. And so anybody who doesn't buy into that and figures out that they can play guitar, if they try, if they just discipline themselves and like they have, I mean, not everybody can, but
Mm.
when you can figure out that most people just won't even try and they just think it's not worth it
Well,
or that they can't.
yeah, I think conditioning is becoming like a terrible thing, like in some regards, because it's teaching people you shouldn't be creative. And we have a lot of leftover, our education system is bad in a lot of respects because we're still being trained to be factory workers, even though um, in a lot of ways, we're not as industrial as were before. But, the crazy shit I seen, I was still like substitute teaching when like COVID like in the middle like aftermath of COVID where they were still taking precautions, and I like just walking into these rooms that hadn't there were rooms in the building that had no windows, and literally like the desks are like 6 feet apart and staring like the same direction. I'm just like, I couldn't imagine just like a more adequate prison, for people. It's like
Right.
it's cliche to call a school prison, but like when you're
No,
actually
it's accurate,
I think it
so.
is accurate. I think it's designed to express creativity. My last girlfriend, she has a doctorate now, and I I think she wanted me to be more educated. And I'm
By
like anti,
whom, right? That's the thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like I said, she talked like she always wanted to, like learn the piano or take the piano, and she wouldn't do it because she was afraid of how bad she would suck. I'm just like, everybody sucks. That's how it is. But it's like I think a lot of that comes from cultural shaming. I don't think it was just
Right.
her.
Yeah,
That's
cultural
just
shaming is huge. And it's funny because they put the people who suck the most in the pop star positions a lot of the time, who can't play the instruments. They're the ones that they built the ego up the most, you know.
yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
scary.
We could talk a lot about the pop world. It's and how just like artificial and stupid it is.
I want to do it. Let's go into the monkeys because that's something that came up recently. Was the anniversary of the Head movie, but I want to go back for a second to prison school because I have a story. I have a friend who went to school in Arizona, and when he got to the high school, they had been saying, "Wow, there's so many kids now. We're gonna have to build a new high school." So they got a bunch of tax money, built this amazing giant new building that was just so good that the prison said, "No, we need it. We need this building. We're going to use it and turn the high school building that you just built into a prison." And then the high schoolers needed a building because it wasn't, they had already moved out of their school, or it was, you know, whatever the earmarks are, or whatever the deal is. They switched it with the prison. So the prisoners went to the high school and the high schoolers went to the old prison building. And I've seen pictures of this place. And you know, I want to tell you that it's like the most terrifying place you've ever been, but it just looks like a high school now because high schools and prisons and parking structures and et cetera are all built by the same municipal architects. And so we have got to a point where there's a certain amount of zombie proofing to your Safeway supermarket, right? It's just preparedness for another 2008 or 29 or whatever, you know what I mean? They're ready for it. But there's also the schools and the building. I mean, how fast can you put chicken mesh around around one of the parking structures and turn it into a human processing facility? Well, we've seen people actually compete, you know, to do that after Katrina into the the 21st century. We're seeing more and more examples of how quickly they can turn a municipal building into its like most logical purpose, because again, these are military architects. The municipal system, it's confluence there. Not always, but I mean, usually, if you're going to build a building for a school, you could also be considered to build a building for, you know, the NSA or for the Marines or for an army base, you know. So it is interesting how, and or for prison, right? And so it is a connected concept, not just in terms of this weird a causal synchronicity, but also because they are just so close together in terms of the things that make them happen organically. They are connected concepts.
Yeah. And I guess like if you wanted to convert like any building into any other building, I think there is like you could do it. Like you could make almost any high school like be a government building immediately.
Right. The concrete ones especially, right?
Yeah. It's the same I guess plasticity.
I mean, it's specific though. It's not any building to any building because they don't, like, the suburban houses are designed to be biodegradable. I think we got a super chat. Travis, I love you, bro. It says if gravity is a constant at -9.81 meters per second squared, but is measures as weaker at the equator and high altitudes, wouldn't that make gravity a variable? Am I understanding this wrong? Yeet. I believe that most people that are worth their grain in salt would consider both speed of light, density, what was the other one? Gravity, right? Gravity, which is even, so they would think of all these things as variables already. Light has a variable speed, but also gravity itself is a variable of so many things, right? Because we're saying, oh, well, gravity is the confluence or consequence of density and et cetera, and electromagnetism and spin states, which if you've seen the episode with Jeremiah, he goes deeper into this idea that there really is something to the concept of gravity. It's not just completely nonsensical, but it isn't anything like it's been described for the last 100 years. It's a little bit more like it was described right before that, right? That's where I'd go with that. But okay, with the prison system, I do want to say the schools, I've been to schools that had bulletproof glass and window tarps for the windows that were blast plastic. So if the windows were to be hit by an explosion or something, then they would just be grabbed by the window tarps, right? So there's all this preparedness that's already happening for this stuff in these buildings, and that was in California. So they do that, but then you've got the Californian home, and the home and all these places, they're designed out of these organic materials, or worse, plastic materials that burn and make it smoke even quicker, right? So houses that can just melt quickly, right? And they're made of biodegradable materials, and it's not designed to last, right? We're not building houses for the suburbans. Even these multi-million-dollar homes, for a lot of time, are made out of pretty falling apart materials designed to last for 25 years, not 75 anymore, which is crazy, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we want to get anywhere near, Fahrenheit 9 or 411,
Right.
yeah, we have to have fireproof stuff, right? That's how we get to censorship. We have to make everything fireproof.
Yeah, I mean, we are at a point where basically everything is designed to self disintegrate, and that's been a pushed concept. We want things to be able to disappear really quickly, but where does that leave? What are the? I mean, we don't even have photo albums. Most people don't have photos; they just have digital copies, right?
Yeah, which comes with its own problems. But I think the most worrying thing that comes up about that is like how do you build any sort of sense of culture? Not to say that culture is, the end goal of any civilization, but I mean, I think it's at least flavorful, you know what I mean?
Right.